Well, I'm talking today about the 2-cent Queen Liliuokalani stamp, both the overprinted and the unoverprinted stamp. That's Scott number 52 and then Scott number 57. Scott number 52 was issued in 1891. It was printed by the American Banknote Company, and it features the new monarch of Hawaii, Liliuokalani, who ruled from July 29th, 1891 to January 17th, 1893. The overprinted stamp was issued by the provisional government after Liliuokalani was overthrown, and it was first issued on May 20th, 1893, and the stamp is overprinted in red ink, provisional GOVT, short for government, 1893. That stamp catalog's $2 unused and $1.50 used. Now, Liliuokalani was the sister of the last king of Hawaii, David Kalakaua. She was well known for composing the song Aloha Oi, and also she wrote her autobiography, Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen, during her imprisonment following her overthrow in 1893. Even though she was in prison, she was imprisoned in the palace, which is Iolani Palace, which after 1900 became the legislative and administrative executive headquarters for Hawaii. If anybody sees the old episodes of Hawaii Five-0, McGarrett's office is right in that palace. So Liliuokalani was given that name by her brother. In English, it's according to Wikipedia, it translates into the smarting of the royal ones. Smarting as in stinging.
No.
And she was regent when David Kalakaua went on his world tour in 1881. She handled the smallpox epidemic on Oahu by closing all the ports, halting all the passenger vessels from leaving Honolulu, and initiating a quarantine. She's also well known during that time she visited the Kalapapa leper settlement on Molokai, and she actually appointed Father Damien, a knight commander of the Royal Order of Kalakaua, for his service to her subjects. She also convinced the Board of Health to set aside land for a leprosy hospital in Kaka'ako, which is part of Oahu. She founded the Liliuokalani Savings Bank in 1886 and founded the Liliuokalani Education Society to promote the interest of Hawaiian ladies in the proper training of young girls of their own race whose parents would be unable to give them advantages by which they would be prepared for their duties, unquote. The stamp is a beautiful portrait of the Queen and has a butterfly pin in her hair, and so many people who collect butterfly topicals collect that stamp and also the butterfly varieties. Now the provisional government part of it is very interesting. It's one of the reasons why Hawaii is now part of the United States. People the members of the Hawaii League, who happen to be many of them happen to be naturalized businessmen of American or European descent, decided they wanted eventually to have Hawaii get annexed by the United States. The reason is that one of the main reasons was that sugar tariffs for Hawaii were higher than any other place in the world, the American sugar tariffs. And so if Hawaii was annexed, they felt that the tariffs would go down or totally vanish. Queen Liliuokalani wanted a new constitution to replace the so-called bayonet constitution that he was forced to accept in 1887 by some of the growers. And so she was overthrown on January 17, 1893 by coup d'etat, helped by the U.S. Marines that the U.S. ambassador sent from the USS Boston. Now, ironically, because there was a changeover of the presidency, when Grover Cleveland was president during his second term, he absolutely opposed the annexation of Hawaii. And Hawaii was not annexed until until 1898 because we were getting involved in the Spanish-American War, and we annexed them. The vote in the Senate succeeded by one vote. So there were still a lot of bitter feelings. And the United States government actually apologized at the end of the 20th century for helping the annexation of Hawaii out. So that's one of the reasons why these stamps are not only just how they look, but also the history behind them.
It's interesting, too, because in the Mexican-American War, we went through exactly the same thing. We conquered all of Mexico. Mexico had no army left. We occupied everything. And the Congress said, no, you are not going to take Mexico. And so what eventually happened is we took the top part. We took New Mexico, Arizona, California, and we actually paid Mexico. But it's funny because we paid Mexico half the amount that we originally offered to buy that exact area. So the war saved us, half the money, but we had to pay the expenses. But yeah, we've been very anti-colonial throughout our entire history. And it's interesting that, people call us a colonial power when we were exactly the opposite from a political standpoint.
Yeah, we didn't gain anything, unlike all the other countries that got involved in the Boxer Rebellion that sent troops from Japan to Russia, Germany, England. They all got something. They all got territorial and trade concessions from the Chinese. We didn't get anything. So that's a good example of where our desire not to have colonies.
And another good example is Spanish-American War. We conquered Spain, and we ended up with the Philippines. We ended up with Cuba, and we didn't keep either one of them.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, the reason why we took Hawaii, if we didn't have that war with Spain, we probably never would have taken Hawaii, because we took Hawaii as a coaling station for our Navy. We said, wouldn't it be convenient if we're going to the Philippines to have Hawaii?
Yeah.
And otherwise we wouldn't have taken it.